Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
If you're a fan of comic books and comic book conventions, Daytona Beach Comic Con needs to be on your list of must-attend events. It's a show that actually focuses on comic books. Imagine that! This year's event is happening on Saturday, September the 6th, and Sunday, September the 7th. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. If you find yourself in the Orlando area, and let's be honest, doesn't everyone come to Orlando for the House of Mouse? Head over to Coliseum of Comics to get your comic book fix. Be sure to check out their location on East Colonial Drive, where they carry a wide selection of independent comics, including Silverline books. Stop by and don't forget to tell them Silverline sent you. Hey, if you're an independent comic creator looking to get your comic printed, look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our comics and do a fantastic job. They can even print special edition covers. When you reach out to them, be sure to tell them Silverline sent you. Looking for a bold way to boost your business? Advertise with Silverline Comics, reaching readers across the U.S. and around the world. Affordable rates, passionate fans, and national and international exposure, all packed inside thrilling, action-packed comics. All ads must be PG-13, perfect for reaching all ages. Spots are limited. Grab your ad space today and become part of the adventure. Silverline Comics, where adventure lives and your brand thrives. Email us at silverlinepublishingllc@gmail.com for more information. And make mine Silverline.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kelber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Greetings, everyone, and sorry for the intro. You haven't fallen asleep or been in a coma for a couple of days. We're actually Silverline Sunday. Right, Tom?
Yeah, yes, we are. I hope it's Sunday. Otherwise, I'm going to have to throw my phone in the trash.
Yeah, or I'm going to have to throw a new calendar out or something. I mean, you know, how can we get past this? Maybe because we have a great guest tonight. So,
hello. Thank you
anyway,
for letting me be your great guest.
I'm sorry, what?
Thank you for letting me be your great guest.
Well, thank you for coming on. So as everybody can tell that Mr. Roland Mann isn't here tonight. And so in all aspects, I guess this is an inventory issue for those old enough to remember what an inventory issue is.
It's a bottle episode, I guess.
Yes,
right.
yes.
It's the fill-in.
So you right in the middle of your run, you just found a oddity and two guys or three guys you may have never heard before. So anyway, tonight me and Mr. Mason are guest hosting, aren't we? Or
well, I think you're the official host.
I'm the official, so everything falls on me.
Yes.
Oh, good. I can take a nap then.
Oh, okay. So then everybody should be very scared about that because as we all know, I'm the quiet one.
That's it. So I just exist to sort of poke you and wake you up and say, "Hey, Mike, it's your turn to speak."
There we go. So anyway, I am your host, Mike Dudley Belcher, and to the, I guess on the screen to the right of me, Mr. Tom Mason.
Hey, everybody, welcome.
And below, the great Thomas Florimani Jr.
Howdy do, everybody. I'm a full-time con artist.
Oh, full-time con artist.
That's right.
Is there money in that?
I won't tell you like that. That would take your cover.
There's no money. No.
All right.
And diagonally for me, is the man, the myth, the legend, from the mean streets and foggy streets of Gallery, Mr. Dan Schkade.
Hello. Thank you for having me back on Silverline Sundays.
Well, we've wanted you back for a long time, but we know that you are an extremely busy guy.
I am. Although I feel bad about the balls that makes me drop as far as correspondence goes. I've disappointed myself this year when it comes to like not getting back to people I care about, because people who have problems with me or problems that need to be solved by me, they always filter to the top, and the good people who I actually like having in my life, they filter to the bottom priority wise. It's good sibling syndrome.
It gets worse as you get older.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Trying to remember what you're supposed to do. Yeah, trust me, I had a whole family thing this weekend, and yeah, it was pretty much the mess you thought it would be. So,
oh, brother,
and cousins and aunts and uncles, and so all that kind of fun stuff. But we appreciate you being here tonight.
My pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly enjoying, as everyone should know, Dan is the current writer and creator on the long-running Flash Gordon series, King's Features, and was it ComicKingdom.com?
That's right.
Okay, that's what I thought. Like I said, I might be back behind a couple of weeks, but I have definitely been enjoying the ride for the almost complete 2 years, coming up on your third?
Yeah, in October it'll be 2 years.
Wow.
And I believe a new story is starting up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, we are in the second or so week of our 10th arc, which is sort of our second year season finale, which is our latest take on the Tournament of Mongo, which is kind of the first Flash Gordon event storyline from way back in the tail end of 1934. So it's we're going way back for this one.
Do you feel after almost 2 years that it's yours? Do you feel like this is, there's always unsureness, especially if something as old as the strip is. Do you just feel like, now you've kind of gotten a little bit of ownership?
Well, it's definitely, I definitely feel a little bit, I definitely feel a little bit sure about it. I understand how to make it more. I understand what people respond to a little bit more. But it's funny, every once in a while somebody asks if we're going to see the Defenders of the Earth in the strip, like the Phantom and Mandrake the Magician and Lothar. And my answer, even 2 years in, continues to be, I feel like I want just a little more certainty on what these versions of the characters are like before we do a crossover. Like I really want them to feel fully dimensionalized on their own before we start. I don't know. I don't want to show up to a party too early.
I can understand that.
But does it feel good that you kicked Buck Rogers' ass?
Oh, I mean, it doesn't even feel good because it was never a question.
There we go.
There you go. Good answer.
Yeah, no, I continue to really like doing the strip. I love the reaction from people, and we're heading into something really interesting in the next year, the year to come, year 3. So, I'm glad that they haven't fired me. I'm glad that I get to keep doing this, and I'm feeling good about it.
Do you, with the making of a comic strip opposed to making a comic book, how's the timing for you? Is it preferable, or would you rather the monthly status of a comic?
It's an interesting question. At this point, I wouldn't mind switching to the monthly comic book rhythm just for a change of pace. As it stands, I have a weekly deadline.
Right. Yeah.
And so all of my weeks are pretty uniform. I haven't taken a week off in a long time. So if I had a monthly book, then I could have a rest week and then a production week.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's really cool having the immediacy of a new strip every day, a new thing to post about every day, a new bit of conversation, of discourse every day. So it's different, and the grass is always greener.
True.
Oh, Jeremy, hey.
Yeah, I told him that you were coming on. He said, now remind me. I've got so much going on this week. Make sure I don't forget so I can be on. So there he is.
What is Jeremy's question? I'm talking to you guys on my phone, so it's just barely too small for me to read.
It says, hi, Dan. Glad to see you back on the podcast. I'm beyond excited about the upcoming Lavender Jack print editions. Now you won't get the endless questions about when it's coming out. Time for a new question. When is the print version of Flash Gordon coming? So he had to be getting to keep it up. So,
well, I first of all, thank you. I'm very excited that the Lavender Jack collection's finally happening. I'm very glad that I can finally answer that question with a yes. As for the Flash print collection, I'm hoping that I can kind of capitalize on the enthusiasm for the Lavender Jack collection, and get King and their affiliates a little more excited about it. They actually sent me some old Mac Reboy Flash strips that they were like clearing out a warehouse, asked me if I wanted them, and so I'm going to write back like, I received these, thank you. Speaking of Flash collections. So I don't know, but we've got 2 years of the strip now. That's definitely enough for a collection.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
what were you going to say, Tom? We kept stepping on you.
Oh, well, that means you've got, because you've got 10, if you're on your 10th story right now, that means you've got at least 9 stories fully completed.
That's right.
Which would be I can't do the math in my head, but that's a lot of pages.
It is.
If you stack 2 strips on each page and then the Sunday on the other page.
Yeah. I think that if we assume that a week of the strip breaks down to, let's just say 2 pages. Let's say they decide to stack 3 strips on a page.
Okay.
Then that would make every week 2 pages. So every year is what is that? About 100 and 160, 175 pages.
Yeah.
So then 2 years of it will be a nice, healthy, like 300-page collection.
It's a big fat book.
It is. That's how long the Lavender Jack collection is. It's every volume of that is 330 pages.
Wow.
So, and people are, pre-ordering that. So there's a market.
Yeah, and there is, and that's, I mean, and this may sound offensive, and I apologize, but Lavender Jack doesn't have the 100-year name that Flash Gordon does.
I'd have to agree.
So
and it's funny, like people are hungry to consume this strip in a traditional fashion.
Yes.
I mean, it's great how the digital aspect of it has made it accessible to people, but much in the same way that watching something like catching it on TV or catching it on streaming makes it accessible. There's nothing like seeing it, in physical media. I was exactly on time to the podcast because Jackie had gotten us tickets to see Yojimbo at a theater here in town. They're doing a Kurosawa series this summer, and I had said yes to that a couple weeks ago, not realizing that it was lining up with this podcast. And so I was like, okay, so Yojimbo is 100 and 10 minutes long, and there's going to be 10 minutes of ads, and the theater is 15 minutes away. And I realized that if everything went fine and we left the theater right as it ended, I would get here exactly in time to get on for the podcast. But seeing it in its intended format like that, seeing it in a theater next to a guy that was chewing too loud, it just, you can't replicate that on Netflix. And I feel like getting to get a Flash collection, that you pull off a shelf, that you hold in your hands, that you can lend to somebody, I feel like that's the equivalent.
Well, that's the thing too, is that how do you give like we've talked about this before on the show. As creators, we like to see the printed thing in our hand of the thing that we made, just because it feels more real and it feels more like you made a statue or something. Like, I made this. This is a thing. And so, and also you can give it as a gift. Like, you can't give a digital comic to somebody as a birthday gift or a Christmas present or whatever, and say, here, I think you'll like this. And I think that's why I love the print, just aside from the reading experience.
It's true. It's definite. It exists. It's no longer theoretical. And this might be a generational thing. Younger readers who are just getting into comics now, maybe they won't feel the same way. But there is, to me, a feeling of artificiality to stuff that's only digital. Like if it goes away, if it gets deleted, which happens with digital media,
Right.
Things get taken off streaming services, episodes of shows get deleted. It can feel like it never existed. It can feel there's like a strange numbness that you feel like,
Right.
Did I remember, did I watch this show or did I dream it? But if it's on your shelf, there's permanence is what we're after here.
Legacy. We like the word legacy.
A tactile feeling of memory. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's the thing about books and comics. They have a smell. They have you know the texture of certain times periods of comics that you bought over the years, and the smell. My Dark Knight Returns books when I was a kid, they had a different smell than everything else I was collecting as far as the newsprint and whatever. And every time I open them up, I'm 12 years old again, because that tactile and that smell just, it hits you, and it hits such a source memory. The digital will never be able to hit, ever.
No. And that's not to say that I don't have like beloved memories of digital comics, like reading webcomics when I was in high school. I think it's what got me into daily strips was the daily digitals of webcomics. But you can't smell a webcomic. I guess like an overheating PC kind of smells like a webcomic.
That burning PC smell.
But yeah, like I said, I listened to my previous appearance last night just to get the rhythm back in my head, and I kept talking about how my first exposure to comics was in Half Price Books in Austin, Texas, on South Lamar. And I kept saying Half Price Books over and over, and I think that part of that's because the sense memory of being in that store, the way it smelled, the cheap carpet and the sort of warm, diesely air from outside mixing with that old book smell, that resold book smell, which is somewhere between a library and a Barnes and Noble. It's it's almost like a memory stim, saying Half Price Books over and over.
You mean that moldy paper smell? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fungus that we inhale and fill our lungs with.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been inside somebody's moldy basement for about 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And see, webcomics will never give you black mold.
Nope.
No.
They'll just make it kind of racist.
And they won't have you running down to the basement every time it rains to try to protect everything and lift it up on the shelf.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, and we're talking about webcomics. One that I used to read when I was younger was Girls with Slingshots by Danielle Crusetto. Really great gag-a-day daily strip, wonderful characters, really funny. And Danielle just had them printed in these like wonderful big cloth cover encyclopedias that come in a 2-volume slipcase that I bought. She did a book tour, came through town. You want to talk about condensing the magic of the internet into the what did you say, Mike? The tactile type of memory.
Yeah.
Of having in person.
Memory,
Yeah. Anyway, not to get too philosophical before the cocktail hour, but yeah, this is something special.
Well, and that's that's where we're heading toward the transfer of Lavender Jack from the digital to the analog, the good old side of paper.
Yeah.
And I know you have certainly been working on transferring it there for a number of years and through a number of possibilities and publishers. And here we are at Dark Horse.
Yeah.
The Dark Horse.
Yep, there it is.
And there it is.
Yeah. It's so funny. Maybe I mentioned this before, maybe I didn't, but I initially pitched Lavender Jack to Dark Horse when I was thinking it would be a traditional comic.
Okay.
So and as I understand it, it got pretty far, but Joss Whedon was also doing like a turn of the century mystery book at the time, and I think it just got bumped for being too similar. And so to now, 10 years later, for it to come back to Dark Horse as a, not just a series, a miniseries, but like a full on, multi-hundred page graphic novel. That's huge. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's the in the 80s, that was the one thing Frank Miller was talking about with DC and the permanence of big graphic novels, of things that sit on shelves. I mean, here you got it. Like I said, as lovely as the webtoon format is, I mean, there is a sense among the hardcores, a comic's not a comic till it's you can sit on the toilet and not worry about dropping it in it.
True.
That's the best pitch ever for a printed book, by the way.
There you go.
We dare you to drop it.
Less likely to fall in the toilet.
That's right.
But you've got a tome now. You've got here. You've got this thing from, like you said, the electronic bits and bytes, and you're going to have 3 tomes that are going to be sitting on people's shelves. They'll be sitting on my shelf, and it's something that again, it's a cool feeling.
Well, I'm very happy that it's going to be on your shelf. I'm happy it's going to be on I don't know, the shelves of people that have been patiently waiting for this, myself included. And Dark Horse has been really cool with this. They initially approached me, like other companies have, saying like, "Hey, can you just give us the files and we'll format them?" And they respected when I said no. It's just to like beyond the me just wanting control over it. It's also like if you put every panel from the comic in a book, it would be I believe volume 1 would have clocked in at about 450 pages.
Yeah, that was where I was going to go to ask you how you went formatting it from webtoons to a traditional style comic.
Well, it was certainly a process. Because what I quickly found was that I should have started further away from the deadline than I did, because I was imagining it would be a fairly simple, you import the panels, you rearrange them, you resize the lettering.
So you're like a director basically at this point. All the footage is done and you're just trying to format it to fit properly.
Yeah, exactly.
A coherent story. Yeah.
And I thought it would take about as long as editing, basically production editing would take. But what I realized was, in order for a page to work, it might mean that a panel had to be sized down to the point that the dialogue in it wouldn't fit anymore. So there are lines that had to be rewritten to be shorter so they could fit on the page. There are some scenes that had to be cut out, so some dialogue had to be rewritten to accommodate the absence of a scene that they referenced, or to paper over a scene that now wasn't there. There were, cases where just a word balloon progression that works in the webtoon format, where your eye is only tracking one line of action at a time, becomes illegible in the traditional format.
Describe to people what a webtoon format is real quick. So if anybody's
Sure.
listening and doesn't, they don't know.
And it is
Compared to like a regular comic.
yeah, well, it's a very cool format. It's an infinite vertical scroll. So the horizontal dimension is fixed and rigid. Every panel is the same width, but they vary wildly in height. And instead of turning the page, you scroll like a Facebook feed. So you have weekly episodes that come out, which are full color, fully lettered, installments of the comic that are usually around 30 panels, sometimes upwards of 30. So every week you're getting the equivalent of about 7 pages worth of comics, which right away was its own issue. How do we take something that was very episodic and make it into a cohesive graphic novel? Because I also realized that if we were going to, break it down into chapters, we would add a bunch of pages to the book because it was 48 chapters. So like, what, does each chapter get its own heading? Does it get its own title page? So instead of it being, it was like those movies made out of He-Man episodes they used to put out. Like you're arranging things that it's like one big story. All of which is to say, I would neither want nor inflict on a somebody at Dark Horse to have to untangle all of that without me. So yeah, it took a while to get the hang of it. I essentially had to re-letter the whole thing.
Yeah.
And some art had to be touched up, some art had to be expanded. And I tried to limit myself in terms of editing because I wanted something to be different. Because at a certain point, you do want to faithfully present the original comic. You don't want to change things too drastically. But if somebody did something out of character, I would tweak it. So that was the process, and that was, as you can imagine, that was the challenge of taking something that has all the vertical space in the world and changing into something that is relentlessly rectangular.
So the story is identical, but you just have to make a format adjustment to accommodate
Yes.
the delivery system.
Exactly.
I think Katie Cook does a webtoon called Nothing Special, and she's talked about how she had to reformat the strip to fit in the fat paperback trade format. And she went in, and I think she had the similar problem that you did, which is that she thought, oh, this will be fine. I'll give myself this much time. And it was not that much time. It needed to be double the time, because once she got into it, she's, well, I can correct this. I can fix this. I was never happy with this panel. I can extend this art over to the
the
edge.
fact that when we're doing regular comics, we're trained when we're drawing to keep leading you to the right.
Yeah.
Now you're leading down, and then now all of a sudden you figured out how, because you formatted the whole book to go down. Now it needs to be the other. Yeah. So yeah, I couldn't imagine. So
you're right. It's the reading flow issue was a big one. Fortunately, because I come from traditional comics, I don't come from just doing webtoon or even doing manga, which a lot of webtoon artists, that's more what they borrow from. I was following traditional comic book techniques, which means that even if the whole comic was vertical, the individual panels still followed the left to right reading order.
Right.
So I helped myself a little bit that way. And I think, I did Lavender Jack coming right off doing The Spirit. So I think that was the hardware I was working with. So a lot of that narrative mechanics was still present.
Well, that scrolling really, it gives you an artificial feeling of movement, because being able to, especially the way some of the things that you did with it, you would start here and you would have like a boat moving across something, or as you scrolled, there was like I said, just a feeling of movement with each every time you were scrolling, as far as telling the story and leading our eyes through everything. And so, that was the strength of that particular way of telling a story.
Well,
And but it doesn't, it does the same with print. You could adapt it in different ways.
thank you for that. And yeah, I found myself when I was readapting this and sort of kind of reteaching myself how a comic page works, because I went from Lavender Jack pretty much right into Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
So I haven't done a traditional comic at any significant length in a while. So the stuff that I was going back to, it was Harvey Kurtzman's Jungle Book. It was the spirit. It was, Joe Kubert's Tarzan was also a big one, because he also utilized a lot of vertical panels. Frank Miller's Daredevil was another big one. Another very vertical comic, not just a very vertical comic, but a very narrow and dense comic. So I went back to basics for this, because I really didn't want it to fall apart on the page. It seems it would be such a shame for it to have taken this long to come out and then be inert.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being a concern.
So what was the once you did it and reformatted it so that it looked more like a traditional comic for Dark Horse, what was the Dark Horse reaction when they started seeing it?
Very positive. The line that I heard a couple times was it just looks like a comic. It looks like it was supposed to be this way, which is good. Oh yeah, I mean that's the goal.
That's like the best you can hope for, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just like any social situation. I just want to look like I was invited. And as far as I know, there's been no production issues, formatting issues. I'll get in the next week or two. I should be getting the first digital proof for it. So then we'll see. I'm a little anxious, but I'm kind of anxious about everything. So that's not really new.
See if it reads right.
Creator.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know that the cover came out well. When they finally announced it a couple weeks ago, which again, Mike, thank you for your patience. I wanted to come on after they announced it, and I thought that would happen earlier. So thank you for waiting for me. But when they finally announced it and I got to see the cover with all the trade dressing on it, seeing how it was exporting to the websites, what the JPEGs were looking like, I was like, I'm happy with how this looks. And if this looks good, I bet the print version is going to look good too. It's Dark Horse Comics. Of all the indie publishers, Dark Horse, for my money, is the one that puts out the best looking books.
I agree with that.
They do it very well. Whoever is there in charge of consistency and paper and production or whatever, they always seem to do a great job with that stuff.
Yeah.
It's true. Which is not a knock on Silverline Comics.
Oh.
No, but Silverline hasn't done a great big fat book.
I suppose not.
Sure. Well, see, we had a question a few minutes ago on the screen.
Agent Cub said, when you were doing the comic, did you have it in your mind that you would eventually put it in print?
I had a thought early on about drawing it on some kind of grid so that it could be vertical, and then I could rearrange it into a traditional. But I knew I had kind of a rare opportunity with Lavender Jack to work in this relatively new format of webtoon, to get this new audience, to have my own, to have something that I created that I really had a lot of control over. I thought, let's not overthink this. Let's make it a webtoon. Let's go all in on the format, like really draw for the format, and then down the line we'll see what we see. But I don't want to do half measures and foul up this opportunity.
Right. Because the great thing about the format is there are two pulls for me, at least when I'm scrolling in the vertical, which is the lettering pulls me down because the placement of the balloons is how I scroll. But also in a traditional comic, we're used to turning the page and seeing the splash page or whatever. But as you scroll down and the panel is longer than, say, the phone, there's always a little thing at the bottom of the panel. When you scroll up, it's like, oh, there's this tiny surprise here. So there's a thing that the format, when it's done well, continues to draw you down with the little surprises, and the lettering is sort of the pull. And
That was...
Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It happens all the time because I won't shut up. But that's what I think Lavender Jack does really well, because I'm reading it, but I'm also paying attention to how you're using the format to its advantage, which is to keep me vertical.
Well, I really started to embrace the idea that when you're making comics for Webtoon, it functions a lot more like editing a movie than making a comic, because your eye can only see one thing at a time. You're guiding the audience's eye, not just through the story, but through the frame. Like famously, Mad Max Fury Road was shot in such a way that the central action of every single frame is basically in the middle of the screen, which gave the editor, I can't remember her name, unfortunately, but the editor was able to do incredibly fast cuts because the eye of the audience didn't have to move around.
Right.
As opposed to the films of Michael Bay, where Michael Bay famously, I'm a big fan of Michael Bay, by the way, but famously, he likes chaotic action scenes, and he accomplishes this by putting the audience's, like the thing they're supposed to focus on in the frame, wildly in different places from shot to shot, which has this effect. Like if Fury Road makes you zone in, Transformers numbs you. Like your eye doesn't know where to go, so it kind of hypnotizes you into just accepting all these shapes and colors coming at you.
Yes.
And so Webtoon, I embraced the idea of like guiding the eye through the frame. Like if we're going to change where the audience is looking, having that be a gradual choice, or occasionally to have something big happen, an explosion, a giant splash panel that forces the audience's eye to reset.
Right. But it also, I noticed in the action scenes, to speak to the way you view it as a movie, when you do the action scenes, because you're in the narrow space, there are smaller panels that are like little frames that feel like quick cuts. They give you the feel of movement and action, but without the giant splash. So it really takes advantage of that format, even for action.
Well, thank you. Yeah, when I started Lavender Jack, I had also started studying low budget action movies really closely. I found some YouTube channels of people who make low budget action movies, and really embrace the idea that when you're doing a comic, you're doing a low budget movie, because there are big budget moments, but like if it's me, I'm the only guy writing and drawing this thing, there is a time budget on what I'm able to draw.
Right.
So how do we shoot this restaurant scene in such a way that we only need to draw a couple of figures, but it still feels like a restaurant? And the action scenes are like that. Like how do we make sure that we've established the characters well enough and the setting well enough that the audience kind of in their mind are holding more information than you're showing on the panel.
Right.
And with Webtoon, where not only could we only see one panel at a time, but the production pace was relentless. I mean, doing that many panels a week was relentless. And so I really started embracing those filmmaking techniques to help the audience work for me.
Because I think the idea isn't to draw everything. Like you said, the idea is to give the audience an understanding that everything is there if they use their imagination to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And they can still, and it's not I don't see it as a cheat necessarily, but it's more like it's using the format to its best advantage. You're not You're letting the audience help you fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah, it's a core tenet of storytelling where, if you're telling a joke about, two guys walk into a bar, you might not mention the bar for the rest of the joke,
Right.
but the audience knows they're in a bar because you told them so. And I think comics are kind of like that. You clearly declare what's happening, and like the big strokes of what's happening, and then trust the audience to hold that so you can get into some more interesting details.
Right, because then unless the bar is the character, there's no reason to go into great detail.
Exactly.
Right. And that was something else that occurred to me when I started studying filmmaking a little bit more, was how little of a Hammer horror movie actually tells you you're in a castle if you don't remember that you saw it at the start of the scene.
Right.
Like how many rooms just kind of look like rooms with
just
some cobwebs.
nondescript rooms.
Yeah.
But
it's a castle because they told you so, and Vincent Price is there.
Yeah.
So
you get an exterior shot of the castle, and then you get a long stone staircase.
Yeah,
and that's and maybe a torch on the wall, and that's it.
And that's a Will Eisner thing too. Will Eisner came from theater, and he talked in one of his books about how a scene could be set in New York or Jakarta based on what end table you draw.
True.
So it's not just, it's picking what details you give the audience in a way that saves you time.
Right.
In the same way that you can't move a whole, if you're switching scenes in a play, you can't move an entire set in and out all the time. Like you have to make judicious choices of what you're showing the audience. Anyway, so I definitely learned a lot doing Lavender Jack in Webtoon, because without the rest of the page to rely on to hide things in your audience's peripheral vision, it did have to be, you're only seeing one thing at a time. You have to make the audience remember what's going on, because if you lose them, they'll just move their phone their thumb sideways and do something else on their phone.
Right.
Audience retention is actually, for the first time in my career, that was a factor that I was acutely aware of.
Yeah, you'll lose them to Candy Crush or something.
Yeah.
So
the thing about the Webtoons format, it's like film. It scrolls like film. It's like the film strips we used to watch in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have the beat telling you to go to the next one. They're just you're getting that flow of it. But the Webtoon format is so close to film.
It's true, and they're pretty good at it. Webtoon as a company, their interface is very good. Not everybody likes reading a comic on their phone, but you can't say that the app itself doesn't work really well, because it does. They really cracked the code on every Webtoon is made up of a stack of 100 square JPEGs that load one at a time. So when you open the comic, you get the first 50 load right away, but it takes a while for the rest of them to load. So they're loading the rest of the comic while you're reading the beginning of it, as opposed to having to wait for this gigantic image to load. And so they're smart people.
I'm gonna race now and see if I can get there faster.
I would run into that sometimes, because I would have the comic up on my phone all the time because I had to reference other things that happened. And up until this Dark Horse collection comes out, Webtoon really was the best way to read Lavender Jack. Even for me, it was more efficient than pulling the files up. So there have been times where I wanted to reference an injury somebody got at the end of an episode, so I had to scroll towards the end and then wait a minute for more of it to load and then keep scrolling. So sometimes I would run into that, but hey, If showbiz was easy, everybody would do it.
So I have another format question. So you've worked in traditional comics, the 6-panel, 9-panel grid or whatever that is, and now you did Webtoon, which is vertical scrolling, and now you're doing Flash Gordon, which is left to right but only 4 panels at a time, except for Sundays. How, as an artist, how do you make the adjustment to each thing? How much thought do you have to give? Or is it now, or once you get into the system, is it just second nature once you start doing it?
Well, I imagine other people might have a different answer, but I feel like I'm always pushing as hard as I can to get out as much information as I can. My comics are kind of notoriously talky, and I have such a limited real estate that I'm trying to cram a bunch of stuff into. So I feel like I tend to sort of push the upper limit of like how small the lettering can be and how many things can be in the panel and how many panels can be in the installment. So what happens is when I do change formats, I feel like I get a hang of it pretty quickly because I am redlining it all the time. If I was doing something a little bit less complicated, a little bit easier, the difference might feel more abstract. But I know, like right off the top of my head, how many characters there can be in an episode of a webtoon before it starts to fall apart.
Right.
And I know how many, like at this point you said, how do I feel about doing Flash, 2 years in? Do I feel like it's my own? One thing I have now is I know that if 2 characters are going to have a conversation, that's 3 days. They have to start the conversation, there's a development point, and then there's the end of it and the handoff to the next scene.
Right.
Or if they're just having a one-day conversation, it can only be about like a feeling. You can't get into plot information if it's only one day. So like I can tell you a bunch of things like that off the top of my head about how much real estate I need for any particular plot thing.
Right.
And I can do, I was going to say I can do the same with a monthly book, but I don't think that's true. I don't think I've done a monthly book in recently enough that I know that, which makes me excited to maybe do a monthly book at some point, like hopefully in the near future, so I can redline that too.
So is that like what? This is going to be a dopey question anyway, but is that what you see? What do you see as a goal for a career? Do you have anything charted out?
Well, I know that I want to start. I know that I want to write more. I really enjoy writing and drawing. I just can't draw as fast as I used to, and I know that's going to get worse. And I want to be able to really, like, I've learned that I can't take 2 drawing jobs at a time anymore. That I don't do work that I'm satisfied with if I do that.
Right.
So in the near future, what I want to do is only do Flash Gordon, only write and draw Flash Gordon, and then be writing 1.5 other things. Because I feel that, like in the about month that I took off in between finishing Lavender Jack Volume 1, the formatting of it, and starting on Volume 2, I did another comic in between those in that break, because I had a spare day per week and I wanted to do something with it. So
right.
I want to do that. I want to write. I would love to write a monthly. I've never written a monthly before. And then I want to do Flash for at least another year. Like I say, we're building to something really cool in this year to come, and that I'm really excited about. And I feel like we've gotten somewhere really cool with the strip, and I want to keep pursuing that. So in the near future, that's my goal. And down the line, I just want to keep on doing work that matters to people, that stands out, that's like keeping a pulp tradition alive in a way that speaks to modern people.
Very good.
Yeah, because pulp came around in a time of social and economic hardship. The whole reason it's called pulp is because it was printed on the worst, cheapest paper imaginable, because that's all people could afford. And these stories of adventure and intrigue and heroism, sometimes dark heroism, like that's what all these things we love came out of. And right now is no different. So I want to do pulp comics for people that are suffering and working for Amazon right now in the same way
like the warehouse worker who fights crime.
Exactly. So that's what I want to do. I want to keep seeing flashback flicks with my girlfriend.
There you go. Let's step back a little bit for the ones that may not know what Lavender Jack is. We've been doing the nuts and bolts, but let's give everybody some information about why they should pre-order Lavender Jack.
It's funny you say that. I was talking with a bar friend recently, and I was just talking about some kind of production thing. And she said to me, sometimes I forget that your job is like superheroes and stuff, because you kind of talk about it like you work at Intel. So yeah, let's get into the storytelling of it. So Lavender Jack is it is a period, what they call a costume drama. It's set in the early 1900s in this fictional European city, and it's a city state of great wealth and scientific progress and diversity, but it is under the heel of the wealthiest, the most influential people in the city, and those without power are stomped upon. And out of this inequity arises this figure of Lavender Jack, this costumed rogue in a lavender sort of devilish costume, who's attacking these wealthy people and exposing their secrets in the newspaper. So one such wealthy person is the Lord Mayor of this city, who hires this aging great detective, she's sort of the Sherlock Holmes of this universe, the Hercule Poirot. She is hired to find Lavender Jack, to catch him, to bring him to justice. And so Jack's actions to take down the wealthiest people in this city form half of the comic, and the other half is this detective figuring out who he is and why he's doing this. And of course, these two plot lines converge in explosive and unexpected ways. So that is volume 1 of Lavender Jack.
Wow, awesome! Yeah, I'm sorry, go Tom. Go.
You might have a better question. Go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is within those parameters he just said, a wealth of characterization.
Yes.
Introduced to so many well-formed characters that you look at it and you feel instantly comfortable with the way you tell the story. That was the one thing that the first time I read Lavender Jack, that's what I felt like. It's like I felt like these, what you were feeding me. I was like, yes, okay, more, and it just, like I said, that's hard with a first series, with a first introduction to characters.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's my favorite works of fiction are ones that you feel almost like you came in on the second season premiere of a show you've never seen.
Right.
Some combination of loving the Venture Brothers and loving just finding random comics growing up, non-contiguous issues, a comic collection made up of parts 2 of 4 where I don't have the others. I think it all comes from that. And the characters are really important. It's an ensemble piece. This was me attempting to do kind of The Wire, but it's all made up of like Jeeves and Wooster characters.
It's what I like most about it is I like you paint the characters very briefly in their early appearances, but you get a sense of who they are like right away. Like there's not a lot of wasted unnecessary backstory yet, but you still know exactly who the characters are, what they want, and maybe how they're going to respond to what's happening right away. Because I love the way the detective, I would pronounce her name Ferrier. Is that
That's right?
I love how she only speaks when necessary, and her silence forces other people to speak and give her the information that is needed. That's a great detective bit, like right out of classic detective fiction. And I love that she's paired with the sort of the eager police officer that, just to babysit, that they like to get rid of her, like deal with it. And then they become a pair of crime solvers. And then I contrast that with Lavender Jack's own personality, where he's very snappy and confident and, sort of sarcastic in a way that he has a mission, but he really seems to enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah. He's part of the fun of going back to this series is it's been long enough since I read it that I get to experience it for the first time a bit. And something I was really struck by was how, Jack he's not just a vigilante in this first book. He is out for revenge, for specifically revenge. Yes. And he's a guy who has heroic instincts, but they're deeper to his character. And at the top right here is a guy who's being like kind of cruel. He's being he's very mocking, kind of bullying. And there's nothing more savage than a well-spoken bully. And so, he definitely evolves. He softens, but to have a character that uses language that like bitingly as your title character, Batman ain't doing that. Batman's not he'll be mean to you, but he'll do it in shorter sentences. Right.
And Batman at his heart is kind of cuddly.
Yes.
and I think that Lavender Jack is not cuddly. And what's funny is because even though he's kind of the villain, he's also kind of the people's hero, because the people he's seeking revenge against are bad people.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2025, when I've told people about Lavender Jack, especially now that the book is coming out and people in my life are kind of like casual acquaintances are now seeing it for the first time.
Right.
The thing I keep hearing is like, oh, he's like Luigi Mangione.
Oh yeah, the bad guy.
Yeah. So not and Mario. But,
right. It took me a second to refigure my brain.
No, I got it.
And I think that's a grim real world example of kind of the appeal of a character like this, like somebody who is a villain, but a villain to the right people from a certain point of view.
Right.
And that's part of the fun of this first volume, I think, is you have a lot of characters who have a lot of different opinions on Jack, and some of them are self-serving. But when you come to characters like Honoria Crabbe, the cop that works with Ferrier, you have somebody who's kind of done what she's supposed to do her whole life. She's followed rules, and she's progressed in her career, and she kind of resents the idea of somebody kind of mocking that and tearing that down. Like,
right.
you know, because this is her life. She believes this stuff and she evolves. But I think that it's important to show that, you know, like everybody has a reason to believe what they believe. And I don't think we get good fiction if we pretend that, you know, people who, I don't know, if we make everybody dumb except the characters we agree with, I think that's how you make bad fiction.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think you've got to have, because you're not necessarily writing this is my point of view comic book. You want to write fiction that is encompassing of many, because I don't want to tell just one story. I want to tell a bunch of different stories, and that means different characters that you might love or hate saying things that you might love or hate. And I think that's where the good stories come from.
You have to fill out the world. You have to fill out the fiction. You have to, you know, everyone's got a point of view that helps contribute to the main narrative.
I think that that's something that that I really took into Flash Gordon, because Flash is a perfect guy. He's brave, he's honest, he's kind to everybody, but he's not a pushover. Right. He'll kind of always do the right thing, and that frees up a lot of room for other characters to fall short of that, to rise to that, or just to have a different idea of what the right thing is. Because just because Flash is always like acting honestly doesn't mean that, you know, he's not omniscient. Like he sometimes finds himself on the wrong side of a fight, and he's not afraid to say sorry either. So coming from the world of Lavender Jack, where everybody's kind of, there are no perfect beings in Lavender Jack. Teresa Ferrier is probably the closest, you know, being this very wise, patient, intelligent person, but she's also kind of prone to depression, and she's kind of paranoid. You know, she has in her own way, you know, just as much growth to do. You know, even being an older character, she has, like, from season 1 to season 3, she, you know, she's a woman who thought that she was kind of at the end of Act 2. Turns out she was just at the beginning of it.
Right.
So to come from the world of Lavender Jack, where everyone's changing, to the world of Flash Gordon, where there's a little more certainty. I don't know. Is seeing these two works next to each other, I'm struck by that contrast.
So if you were going to cast the Lavender Jack movie or the Lavender Jack Netflix series, who plays who? Who plays Jack? Who plays Ferrier?
Boy, so I actually just watched, I'm going to pull up the actress specifically because I want to get her name right. So I just watched Murderbot on Apple Plus, which was a wonderful show.
It's a hoot.
And
like how it ended. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was well written. And the female lead of the show is this sort of older academic scientist who's kind of trying to understand Murderbot.
Yes.
In a way that's very like soft and kind of West Coasty, but not weak. And I really like that. Her name is Noma Duazweni, and I think she would be awesome as Ferrier.
She would be great.
Now, as for Jack, this is somebody that was recommended to me on Twitter, and I always really liked this idea. And I've seen this actor in a couple things. He was in How to Get Away with Murder. His name is Alfred Enoch. He's a British actor, and he just looks like, if you pull him up, he looks exactly like Memley. Alfred Enoch.
All right.
So that's what I would do. And then, you know, the other, like, Lavender Jack's targets and whatnot, we would fill out with like stunt casting. Like, we get Patton Oswalt to be the Lord Mayor.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Because it seems ripe for that. Like, you could plug in your favorite actor for the stunt, but they'd still do a great job. So it wouldn't be like a gag. It would still be, they would still sell it.
Yeah. That's and I hope that the series is. I hope that in my comics, the characters are interesting and different enough that you can have fun thinking about who would play them.
Right.
That they're that they're stories that are conducive to ham.
Have you seen? I think it was on Netflix, called a series called The Residence.
Yes.
Okay.
Great show.
I think your Murderbot actress is better, but I first thought of the actress who played the detective in The Residence, probably because she was a detective.
Oh, I mean, she would be great. It'd just be a shame to lose that hair. She's got such great hair.
Right. Yeah. But that might be a wig.
That's a good point, actually.
You never know with actors.
It's funny. People have asked me, like, something that comes up when newcomers come to the comic, and what came up when the comic first came out, is people asked me, why does Farrier look like that? And the answer was that I had just come off doing The Spirit and some other odd jobs where the female characters that I was allowed to draw were fairly restricted.
Right.
And I thought, this is my own thing. Like, let me cast an actress, so to speak, that I just wouldn't be allowed to otherwise. Certainly not in a leading role.
Right.
So I kind of broke all the rules I was given about what kind of person I could draw, and as a result, like, she's the fan favorite character of the series. Like, she's the person that got the most fan art, and I think people just like, she's a cool looking person doing cool things.
But isn't that one of the great points of a creator-owned comic? Is like, okay, I have to draw these characters for DC, and they have to look this way. So when I do my own thing, I'm gonna 180 that, and bring something to the front that I haven't yet. Not that, like, you've been censored, but you haven't been allowed necessarily to have that kind of person in a corporate comic.
It's true. We talked about this last time I was on, how it's interesting to watch big two creative teams take on independent work and see who is able to really do something wild and who is kind of just doing an ersatz version of their big two work.
Right.
But in the time since then, I've grown to really appreciate the other direction, where you have, I mean, obviously, our guy Matt Wagner is a great example of this. Somebody who came from doing sort of more offbeat indie stuff. Now you see what his Batman is like,
right?
And like the guys that did the Ice Cream Man comic are doing the Superman book now, and it is so funky and creative and off the wall. I love the way they draw Superman. He looks like if the Wayne boring Superman was also like an adult animation character. Like, there's something so pure and Silver Age about it, but also a little bit creepy.
Right.
Like, it's just so it just leaps right off the shelf. I think it's not called Superman Kryptonite. That's the Tim Sale Darwin Cook one, but it's
similar. I've seen the ads.
Yeah, it's called the Kryptonite syndrome or something like that. Yeah. So I'm appreciating that too. I'm appreciating people who are able to play their instrument in those two tones, because just like some people can't break out of their big two work, some people can't break out of their indie work.
Right.
Sometimes you'll see this would happen sometimes on, like, Legends of the Dark Knight, where you would have somebody do, like, they do a Batman story, but it would just kind of be a crime story, and then sometimes Batman's in it, and that can be cool in its own way, but it's like, couldn't this just have been, does he have to even be in it?
Right. That's why I occasionally pick up the work by Ryan North.
Yes.
And because he started out doing wacky webcomics, and has made the jump to the big two. And Jeff Lemire, who did his own independent comics and still does on occasion, but also dips his toe in over at DC on a fairly regular basis.
He's there right now.
Yes. Those are two excellent. Those are all excellent examples. and great examples of taking the creativity that you develop when you're cutting corners, when you're doing your own funky little thing,
Right.
and not just one-to-one plugging superheroes into that, but expanding on it.
Right.
Because I mean, whatever Jeff Lemire does, like, even if I don't always click with it, I'm always happy that I read it.
Yeah, I mean, he's always in there. I don't know how to say this really, but he refuses to be corporatized.
Yes.
In a way, like you can, yeah, it might be a Batman comic, or it might be a Superman comic, or it might be a superhero comic, whatever. It's still Jeff.
Yeah,
And-
it's like Kendrick Lamar playing the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, it's a Super Bowl show. You know, he's censoring the language, but it's,
Right.
I mean, it's not exactly Motley Crue, is it?
No,
So
it's like 97% Kendrick.
Yes, and I love that. I think that Jeff Lemire really does create that way, because you got to protect your artistic identity. You know, if you demonstrate that you're willing to completely sand yourself down, then that will be expected of you.
Yes, and also we've talked about it here amongst ourselves on the show a lot. Is that there's no reward for that long term.
Right.
Because the company doesn't care. Sure, you sand your edges down and corporatize yourself to fit in for the job or whatever, but 2 years from now, they'll kick you out just as easily as if you hadn't.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
so-
And you can't take your readers with you if you're artistically anonymous.
Right.
You know, because if like a whole generation of Daredevil fans became Frank Miller fans
Yes.
in a way that they didn't become, you know, I can't think of a counterexample, but I wouldn't be able to think of a counterexample because whoever that guy was didn't develop a fan base.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
the thing that Frank did is that when he left Marvel to sort of go out on his own, he didn't step too far away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's still original, it's still Frank, but it's not so far out there that you go, well, who is this guy? It still
Right.
felt like Frank work.
Yeah.
You thinking about Ronin?
Yeah, I mean Ronin is kind of weird, and story wise, doesn't really fit in with Daredevil or Dark Knight Returns, or whatever. But it's still Frank. I mean, it looks like Frank, it sounds like Frank, it feels
Yeah.
like Frank.
Yeah, like Ronin could be like that could be a Jim Starlin comic. Like Ronin, like you're right. He didn't go completely gonzo. It's still recognizably Frank, but it shows the scope of him.
Yes.
Ironically, now that I think about it, like that kind of weirdo Frank stuff would go on to become more of his identity, wouldn't it? With stuff
Yes.
like Martha Washington, with the later Dark Knight stuff,
Oh, yeah.
like Dark Knight Strikes Again.
No.
Interesting. But yeah, that's the thing. If you keep a creative voice, then corporate stuff over the course of your career, and people can see that evolution.
Yes. And
Interesting.
as a creator, I think you can also, not that everybody can, but if you do some corporate work and get the bigger name for yourself, and then you dip out into do your own independent thing, and then if that's successful, then you get to dip back into Marvel again. You can sort of ping pong back and forth and continue to build an audience for your own work as you still do good work for the corporations.
Yeah, one hand washes the other.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy doing corporate IP work. I loved working on the Spirit. I'm having a great time on Flash Gordon, and I like that my Lavender Jack readers became Flash Gordon readers.
Right.
I like that. I like that T. Fogner, who hired me to do Flash, read Lavender Jack and saw what I was doing there and thought, well, let's get him to do that with
Right.
Flash Gordon. Because I had an identifiable that to point to.
Right.
And I feel sometimes when I'm looking at people who are on the come up, who are trying to get more work as writers, more work as creators, because this goes for artists as well. I'll sometimes look at what they're doing and be thrilled by it, and and think, I feel lucky to be a peer of this person. But sometimes I look at it and I think there's nothing being communicated here. Like it looks pretty, or like I understand the story,
Right.
but there's no there. It's a cover of Wonderwall. What is present here that I want you to do, but with Blue Beetle?
Right.
So, and if someone is in the audience is struggling creatively, I would encourage you to ask yourself that question, because I know whenever I am hitting a wall, doing one of my 365 Flash Gordon strips a year, sometimes I'll be like, I'll ask myself, am I saying anything with this? I threw out a whole Flash strip the day before it was due this week, because I was just looking at it. I'm like, I feel nothing when I read this one. We're not accomplishing anything. I don't think it looks especially nice, so I just junked it and did a new one, because if you're not saying something, then shut up.
But still meet your deadline.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's the beauty of being the guy behind the pen, or the typewriter or the keyboard or anything. I mean, we are what we represent. If we don't show what we're producing genuinely, why would anybody else take it that way?
That's powerfully put.
Yeah, and I think. Go ahead.
Well, just when I think about the idea of writing, of being only the writer on something, it would be interesting to not just be the only guy behind the pen, to have to make more final decisions, to be able to be completely just thoughtful about the writing, because I don't get mad at myself when I throw out work that I've done, but you have to be a little more careful with other people's time.
True.
Right. Yeah, because I think when we're by ourselves working on our own stuff, we can just say, well, this is crap, and throw it away, and I'll do better right now.
Right.
But if you're looking at somebody else's work, you can't really. It's not pleasant to say that to them.
No.
In the manner that you would talk to yourself.
Well, it's funny. I'm realizing I completely forgot this, but I kind of did that earlier this year with we did a storyline that was all guest artists. We
Right.
did.
Oh yeah.
It was a storyline. We had 5 guest artists. The premise, just for the audience, the premise was that there were these strangers stuck in a bar on Mongo, trapped in by a storm, and they each happened to have a Flash Gordon story. So each of them would share their Flash Gordon story. And so for 5 weeks subsequent, every week was one of their stories, and it was drawn by a different artist. So I did get the experience of having to make final decisions on what was going to be on the panel, because I was working with other artists that I hugely respect. I mean, one of our guest artists was Ted Knifey, who's The Adventures of Courtney Crumrin. I read that in middle school. Like these are people whose time and talent I respected. So I did have to make those final decisions, and any editing that needed to happen had to fall on me as a writer. I'm like, I wish that we had. I wish I'd put a panel in that conveyed this information, or I wish that we had given this character a little more room to breathe. And so I just had to find a way to invent that in the captions. So I would love to do that more. I'd love to work with a talented person for 22 pages and develop that a little bit more.
So,
Hey, we got a question.
yes.
Agent Cub says, has Silverline thought about doing a webtoon?
That's an interesting question.
Has Roland ever mentioned that, Tom? Or
I
Tommy?
pitch it to him all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
We've talked about it.
We
a
talked about
bunch.
it because I think you, like in the old days of comics, the kids would gather at the newsstand or go to the 7-Eleven or whatever. That's good. and comics were sold where the kids are. And kids today are on the internet. They're on their phones, they're on their tablets or whatever. And so, you know, if you want to go to where the kids are, that's where they are. And so Webtoon is one of the places where you should go and have a presence. And so I beat that into Roland like every couple of weeks. It's like, it's, you know, here's what we should. We just can't find the thing that we want to pitch to develop, because there's a very specific type of project that works well for Webtoon that isn't necessarily the kind of thing that works well in the direct market. That isn't necessarily the kind of thing that works well for movies or TV. And so it requires an immense amount of thought.
Yeah.
Well, if you jump over to the Webtoon site, you'll see at the bottom it says coming soon to Webtoons. I don't know how long that's been there, but it lists Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marvel has a deal. DC did some original stuff that was written by DC people but drawn by Webtoon artists. And that was fairly successful. And I think Marvel's repurposing old stuff, which I think is weird to try to reformat, to reconfigure back from comics to Webtoon, I think is weird.
Yeah.
And Marvel's also doing their own scrolling comics. I believe DC as well are doing their own scrolling comics on their own platforms. So they're doing Ersatz Webtoons things.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
DC
really, as they should.
Yes, but Webtoon is the big, you know, they're the Netflix of scrolling comics. So that's where I'd want to be, because that's where the most kids are.
Exactly, because that's the question. Like, do you want to do a scrolling comic because scrolling comics are popular, or do you want to do a scrolling comic because you want the existing audience of people to read that?
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that Webtoon is where those eyes are, and I'm not as plugged into the scene as I was when I was directly doing one, but I know that, you know, even though the stuff that rises to the top kind of has a look to it that I would not describe as Silverline-y, but there is a whole undergrowth of different styles, and I think that a Silverline Webtoon would be interesting, because it doesn't have to be a thing that runs for a year. Like, it can be a limited story. I would be interested to see that.
Yeah. And really, Tommy, you know, I think Zomboy, I think something like you definitely could do something for Webtoon.
Well, we'll have to talk about it.
Well, I like when you're cryptic.
So before we go, Dan, do you want to say specifically how people can get Lavender Jack? Because it's not out yet; it's coming out. And
That's right.
Where should people really go?
Well, so it'll be out March 3rd. That'll be in comic shops, I believe in Barnes & Noble and some other places. But if you want to pre-order it, which I recommend, there's a link scrolling underneath me that'll take you to the Dark Horse page for Lavender Jack, which not only has a summary of the comic and some technical specs, it also has links where you can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Book, Tube, I don't know, other book buying options.
BookTube sounds great.
So those pre-orders, I believe, will be open through November. So that's where I would go. That's where those are the places where if you pre-order it there, that's what makes me look good.
And because pre-orders, I understand people who want to wait until it's physically out, but pre-orders actually help boost the signal and make Dark Horse pay attention to do more Lavender Jacks and that kind of thing. So
definitely,
pre-ordering is really the way to go.
And there's 3 of these things coming out. The first one's coming out in March. The second one is going to come out roughly this time next year, and then the third and final one will probably come out the March subsequent, March 2027. So I recommend pre-ordering, just because these things are kind of, the ink's dry on the contract to do more of these. There's gonna be more, so you can be satisfied that when you pre-order something, it's actually going to show up.
Right.
It's also part of the fun of, or part of why I'm glad to be partnering with Dark Horse on this is, they put books out and they look good and they show up when they're supposed to, and that's a very satisfying pair of hands to be in.
Well, it also feels like a Dark Horse book. Like it's not. It feels like if you had this next to Hellboy on your shelf. I understand they're two very different books, but they kind of fit together thematically and artistically. That it does feel like it. Like if you liked Hellboy, you would like Lavender Jack, and vice versa.
That's the hope. I mean, Dark Horse comics were the ones that I like, especially as a teenager, that I just inhaled, and stuff like Hellboy, stuff like Sin City and Concrete, and of course Grendel are baked into Lavender Jack's DNA.
Right.
So I'm really, it means a lot to me that this particular comic is coming out through Dark Horse.
Also, the tallest publisher in comics.
True.
That's right.
You can't go wrong with a tall person.
Oh, that's my motto.
Hey, before we go, Dan, what are you reading? What would you suggest out there?
What am I reading? Well, I haven't been reading a lot of modern stuff. I've been researching some older things lately, but I did just pick up the hardcover of Steve Lieber and Matt Fraction's Jimmy Olsen.
Okay.
And I forgot how lovely that is. What great cartooning is in it. And speaking of, it's awesome. And speaking of great cartooning, I think it's about to wrap up, but Mark Waid and Chris Samney's Batman and Robin Year One. If you like any kind of superhero comics, if you like Batman the animated series, if you just like good comics, it's one of those things that's so good you kind of can't believe it's allowed to exist. So that's comic wise, that's what I'm reading.
It feels like Waid and Samney kind of. I mean, I know it doesn't happen this way, but it just feels like they snuck it in.
Yeah.
and nobody was paying attention. Like everybody's out of the office, and then Waid and Samney just said, "Okay, we're going to do something," and then it ships because it doesn't feel like the rest of DC's sort of dark and murky stuff. It really feels like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Boy, may we all create work such that people say it feels like they got away with it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it does.
Anything other than Flash Gordon and going on? Any covers?
I did a cover for a Santa Claus comic that I believe is coming out this Christmas, maybe. I'm not quite sure when that's coming out, but something nobody knows about me is I love drawing Santa Claus. Other than that, I'm just nose grindstoning it when it comes to Flash Gordon. And
okay, I have a follow-up question when you're what? Because I can't resist now. What is it about Saint Nick that compels you?
Well, I mean, it's like
because we all have our crazy things. We all have our things that we love. So,
well, he's iconic. He's friendly and dynamic. He's got a distinctive design. He's got a bunch of cool iconography. He's just a pop mythological figure that I've always found really compelling. Plus, my mom loves when I draw Santa Claus.
Oh, cool.
There.
Well, that's enough reason right there.
There you go. That's all you need.
Oh, honey, draw Santa Claus again.
Least they could do.
We have a question from Jeremy King.
Oh, here we go. Still holding out hope for a Madame Ferrier spinoff.
Yeah, that would be.
He's got another one too. Sorry, go ahead and answer that one.
The Madame Ferrier spinoff. If these 3 books sell well, then maybe Dark Horse would be interested in doing that, because I'm still interested in doing that. 1870s France, grimy, grungy mystery adventure. I would love that. What's the other question?
I love the first 2 issues of St. John. What's the status of the rest of the series?
St. John was canceled, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. That's a bad decision from Dark Horse.
I think
we don't want to. Yeah.
No, I think it was. it was there were a lot of factors involved, but I think it was the right decision. And clearly, there's no bad blood because they're doing the Lavender Jack books, and I'm very much enjoying my relationship with Dark Horse. But I'm really glad that people liked those first two issues. They were a lot of fun, and we actually have almost another St. John story finished. That hopefully at some point we can put that out. I think that it might be fun to release those three St. John stories, the two issues that came out, and then this other one we have as sort of an annual of sorts that you could sell it at cons. I think that would be fun. So I think there probably will be at least that bit more St. John at some point. So I'm sorry to disappoint the people who were reading and liking the book, and I hope that the 1,000 pages of Lavender Jack makes up for it.
It makes me happy.
I'll tell you.
Right.
Mike, you drew an awesome St. John once. I don't think I've said that to you directly, but I love the St. John drawing you did.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I said I love the two books. I was really hopeful. I'm sad to hear that. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, they form a nice little, I think they work as a little duo, and I got to work with Brennan again, who I just adore. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you guys did a good job.
Thank you.
Well, Tom, do you know what's going on the rest of the week for Silverline? Because I don't have any notes.
Yes, I know exactly what's going on the rest of the week. I know that on Tuesday, Silverline will have another show, and that'll be followed by Wednesday with another show. And so if you liked this one, you should tune in on Tuesday for something that kind of seems similar. And if you liked what Tuesday show, tune in on Wednesday for something that seems similar to that.
With different people, and that maybe they know more what's going on than we do.
I feel certain that's the case.
Well, yeah, that has to be the case. But this
we do know what know what we're doing next Sunday.
Oh, is it you're grinding your gears?
Yes, I
do
have
know
got
that
a
one.
list here. Don't look at it too much. Don't look. That's my notes. Oops, look, it's all blinking out anyway. You can't read or know how.
It's things that piss off.
What twists Thomas's knickers is what we're calling it.
Okay.
Okay.
Going to be some burning ears out there,
I'm
especially
telling
you guys that send stuff to Kablam.
Yeah, I've got
Not to be
categories. 3 categories, with the third category is things that'll get me in trouble if I stay on the air.
And is it all about comics?
No, the second category is about comics. The first one's general, and then the third one's things that'll get me in trouble.
We'll try to get to the third category as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, we may run out of time. Oh.
Hey, Dan, it's great having you on the show.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much for coming on. We love hearing from you.
It was wonderful to talk to you guys again. Let's do it again soon.
Well, when the book comes out, let's.
Yeah, we could do that.
That would be awesome.
Have a little party for it. Yeah.
I would love to get y'all's opinion on how it came out.
Yeah.
Well, I pre-ordered mine as of today, so you're set.
Thank you so much.
It's gonna be a hit because my money is never wrong.
There you
Excellent.
go. Tom Mason guarantee we can do better than that.
All right. Well, love talking to you guys. I will catch you later.
Yeah,
Cool.
no problem.
Thanks, Dan.
Well, okay. I guess that's the show, and here we are at the end of the show. Like and subscribe.
Dan's out of here.
Here we
Like
go.
and subscribe.
So anyway,
Like and
till next
subscribe.
time, make mine Silverline.
Oh, I'm spilling it all
Everyone.
over the thing, and then we don't know how to get off.
Hi, I'm Dave Dorman. Make mine Silverline. Hi, I'm Dave Dorman. Make mine Silverline.